Hey everyone, Demonite here. This video is going to be something different. I felt like I wanted to make some sort of video where I talk about my channel, what kind of direction it's going and what I want to do with it. I think something like this might be good to just kind of give you guys an idea of what I'm doing or plan on doing. The first things I want to address are Borderlands 3 and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, since I get asked if or when I'll play those all the time. As for Borderlands 3, I definitely plan on returning to it eventually. When, I cannot say for certain, maybe in the near future, but maybe not. Also, I think I never really mentioned why I even stopped playing it in the first place, but there's two main reasons. The first one being the constant patches and hotfixes that kept changing the game's balancing and how certain skills or items worked. It was just very frustrating to make videos for either builds or game mechanics when they'd become outdated or even completely irrelevant 1 week later. I remember trying to make a video about Flag's skills and putting a lot of hours into it just so that half of the stuff got completely changed when I was nearly done with the video. And then the best part was that some skills were completely broken and only had visual changes to their descriptions, but didn't actually change in the way they worked, which was both hilarious and sad. So yeah, that basically just killed my motivation to continue working on it. I think the game has stopped receiving updates at this point, so this would no longer be an issue now at least. Mind you, I literally haven't even booted up the game in years, but from what I gathered from other people, there are still plenty of broken skills in the game. While that's of course pretty stupid, at least the balancing will stay the same from here on. Well, that is unless they pull a Lilith DLC and add 10 more levels for no reason at all in a couple of years. The other reason I stopped playing was that endgame at the time simply wasn't very fun for me. Mayhem levels were broken and just really annoying because of the layered RNG. I know they changed Mayhem levels at some point, but back then it was just such an artificial way to increase the difficulty, it just ruined it completely. Farming in BL3 was also an utter nightmare with annoyance and stuff. Also, the drop rates are so high to the point where legendaries became the new blues and purples, because you could just kill any boss and he dropped 20 of them at once. It kinda just took the charm away, but of course most drops are useless anyway because the chances of getting something with good stats are abysmal. I think for me to get any enjoyment out of endgame at all, I will have to use a save editor as soon as I'm done with my first casual playthroughs of all the additional content. And lastly, another huge contribution were the seasonal events. I really hate content that's not accessible all the time. It honestly felt like they treated Borderlands 3 like an MMO or something. Not just because of the seasonal content, but also because of stuff like Twitch drops and whatnot. I remember the Halloween event added these super annoying floating skulls to every single map in the game, which just added a completely new gameplay aspect nobody asked for. That of course further contributed to me not wanting to make any builds, because what's the point if I can only test them in an environment that'll change in a few weeks. And that's pretty much it. Overall BL3 was just kind of frustrating to play and to make videos about. I liked the game, obviously, it's still a Borderlands title after all, and at its core it is super enjoyable to play, but all the weird design choices Gearbox made just kind of tainted it for me. But again, I'll definitely play it again at some point, and I also want to continue making playthroughs for all the story DLCs. Speaking of DLCs, I haven't even bought Season Pass 2 yet. It's kind of another thing I'm a bit salty about since I paid €100 at launch to get all of the content, just so that I didn't end up with all the content. I know it was similar with Borderlands 2, but that's not really an excuse in my opinion. Now, when it comes to Wonderlands, I'm not sure yet. I might buy it at some point, but not until I'm more or less through with Borderlands 3 and it had its fair share of updates and content expansions so that I won't have those issues again. Anyway, the next point I wanted to address in this video was the stuff I've been working on regarding Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel, and I don't just mean recently but generally over the years. First of all, why I'm so slow at making videos. There's multiple reasons, but I'm not gonna make any excuses. One of the main reasons is really just that I spend most of my free time playing other games. There are of course weeks or even months where I don't have a lot of free time to begin with, so I usually just prefer to actually play games rather than to sit in the same spot for hours to test God knows what kind of unholy mechanics in Borderlands. But that's not to say that there is a lack of motivation for me. I absolutely still enjoy making videos, that hasn't changed at all over the years. Thing is, a lot of my videos just take quite a bit of work and time to finish, and adding to that is the fact that it's nothing but a hobby for me. My channel has never been monetized, so my enjoyment of making videos was always the main drive for it. Now what I really want to get into at this point is why exactly some videos take so much work and time to finish, specifically videos about game mechanics or videos that are related to that. Stuff like my videos about glitch effects, splash damage, or my recent class mode video all took long to make because there's always some mechanics or calculations that I can't quite figure out or make any sense of. I have tons of videos like that planned, and some of those have been laying on my hard drive for years, like the TDR guide for example. That one got set on hold, partly because some TDR guns have diminishing damage the further away they explode from an enemy, but it's not always the case, and why or how it works is just a mystery. And again, that's just one example. I think it's best if I just show you what kind of stuff I've been working on. For example, here are 2 folders I have with some of the things I have made or want to make videos about. Immolate.rtf is a list of skills related to Immolate and how they work. It's a complete mess and every single skill has asterisks upon asterisks in its explanation. Bore and Bullet Reflection.rtf is another really stupid one where everything differs for every enemy with bullet reflection. A lot of these things are about lists of enemies with certain properties, like different multipliers or something, which are always work in progress. I also have a bunch of Google documents for these things, like this one about unlisted projectiles. A video I'm working on right now has to deal with animation speed and how long certain animations take at 60 FPS, which is also a nightmare to deal with. I've asked friends or modders for help or input with some of these things, and while a lot of stuff has been resolved thanks to other people, a lot of things just remain unknown. Admittedly, it might be a help if I was more experienced with modding the game myself. So when I get stuck on something, I just put it aside for later, and when later arrives and I still can't make any progress, the project gets set on hold and just sits there. I really hate uploading a video and half of the information I'm giving people is me saying that I'm not sure how something works. It feels like I shouldn't be making a video in the first place then. I hope that's understandable. Just note that there's a lot of interesting things I wanna make videos about, they're just very annoying to deal with. Of course I will continue working on these things and hopefully release them as videos eventually, even if I can't figure all of it out. Aside from game mechanic videos, I often get asked if I'm ever going to make more builds, or rather if I'm going to revisit the builds I've made in Borderlands 2, but for level 80. Originally I did plan on making videos for every character, where I go over all the builds I have on my channel remade for level 80. But to be completely honest, I'm not really a fan of the level increase, it kinda makes building characters not as interesting anymore. It just feels like you have so many skill points now that most builds end up having nearly the exact same spec. And it even made some builds obsolete. For example, on my channel you'll find 2 separate videos for a Soldier Exton build, one being the default version and the other ditching various skills in exchange for the right tree capstone skill Gemini, which means the gameplay difference between these 2 builds was very apparent. Now with level 80 however, you can just grab all the skills you want as well as Gemini, so both builds pretty much just merged. Anyway, I think I'm still gonna make these videos at some point. Basically 1 video per character where I briefly go over every build with a download for a giant save file that contains all the gear of all the builds I made for that character. Though it's been a couple of years now, so I'm not sure how helpful that's going to be. Another thing I get asked occasionally is if I'm going to make content for various Borderlands 2 and TPS mods, like the UCP and stuff. But honestly I don't really have an interest in that, I prefer playing vanilla, so I'd say it's unlikely. Not impossible, but unlikely. Now, finally, I want to get to the last point of this video, which is something completely different. As I've said, I've been playing many different games, and while I made videos about them here and there, no game other than Borderlands got more than a couple of videos on my channel. Borderlands will definitely always be the main focus of my channel, but I do want to make some other videos as well. I'm always a bit worried about uploading stuff that isn't related to Borderlands, since I don't want to give the impression that I've stopped making content for it, so I want to specifically point out here that this won't affect Borderlands content and I'm not looking to shift my channel into another direction. With that being said, one game series I've been playing a lot recently is God Eater. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's like anime Monster Hunter. Basically, you fight giant monsters with edgy, oversized weapons. Anime games are usually not my cup of tea, but the gameplay is actually very engaging and fun, so I stuck with it and it grew on me. Anyway, the game I want to focus on for videos for now is God Eater Resurrection, which is the first game chronologically. God Eater doesn't have a huge player base to begin with, especially considering how old the games are, but Resurrection in particular probably has the least people actively playing it out of the 3 main games. So obviously I'm not looking to expand my channel with it or anything, I really just want to make videos about it because I like it is all. I have different types of videos in mind, for one just boss kills in similar fashion to how I have made several videos in games like Dark Souls 3 or Code Vein. But I also have more game mechanic related videos in mind. If you've played Monster Hunter before, you might be familiar with the term motion value. It refers to things like damage multipliers that are assigned to specific attacks and animations of a weapon. I found that there's little info regarding them for God Eater. The Japanese wiki, for example, lists motion values for God Eater 2 and 3, at least partially, but not for Resurrection. Or rather, it lists incorrect values. I've tested them all myself. And aside from that, I don't think anyone has ever made any video about them, so this is something I actually want to make a series about in the form of weapon guides. Now I realize this is all probably of little interest to you, the person watching this video, because you're obviously here for Borderlands. In fact, I'm surprised you're still watching, so hey, thanks for that. However, in case anyone here is actually interested, I was thinking of making a little introduction video to God Eater, just going over the basics of the game and whatnot. So if that does sound interesting, please let me know in the comments. And that's everything I wanted to talk about in this video. Now you know what I'm going to upload next. Either a game mechanics video if I finish one, or maybe a God Eater video, or maybe just another stupid meme, or maybe you won't hear of me again until the end of the year. I guess I should thank you guys for sticking around on a channel that uploads like 3 times a year. I've said it before, but really the best part of making videos is reading comments of people that appreciate them, so thanks a lot. And as always, thanks for watching and see ya everyone.